Looking back on that first fight, mate, do you remember much of it?
A little bit, not much, but I just remember I just went out there and threw hands.
Threw hands like crazy.
We had all the skill sets, but I just went out the window.
God.
You're listening to Locals Only, a Sunshine Coast-based podcast focusing on profiling the best young and emerging business owners the coast has to offer, showcasing the journey of the next generation of movers and shakers and the ones to watch as they set the benchmark in small business. This podcast is sponsored by Local Property Group.
Dana, Deadly Coolwell. Welcome to the Locals Only podcast, my friend. How you been?
Yeah, been pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, mate.
Just been cruising by. Just had my last win and back into training actually this week.
Training, always fun, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Well, firstly, thanks for being here. I guess talking a little bit off air to give you a bit of an idea on the podcast. It's obviously a Sunshine Coast based podcast. Obviously, the aim is to talk to young up and comers on the coast who are doing some cool things, business and sport orientated. Of course, I think previous to you, there's mainly business, but our most recent one was Reed Marnie, and I mentioned to him as well that there's an interesting connection, I think, between high performance sport and high performance business. I love the idea of talking to athletes and people in sport as well, because I think there's a different psyche to high performance sport and business that most people won't understand. But anyway, enough about that. Let's dive into you, mate. Obviously, 12 pro fights now.
Yeah.
Quite a few wins to notch up in there as well. A few KOs as well, I noticed. So, mate, we'll get into the boxing story in a moment. But ultimately, Australian super featherweight and Queensland lightweight champion.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've let go of those for now, pushing for big and bad things, which is exciting. Personally, obviously, I've followed your journey for a while and a big fan of your coach, Steve Pitt.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that as well, mate. But let's talk about you to begin with, eh? Let's hear about the origin story. Where'd you grow up? What's your story, mate?
Grew up in Beale, actually, pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
Was there from baby, went to primary, went to high school there, graduated. And then found boxing there actually too, and just recently moved to Glasshouse, so not far from there.
Yep, cool. So what was family life like growing up? Family? Tell me about growing up.
Yeah, we had a good family, but obviously struggles as well. Bit of a tough childhood, bit of a broken family in some parts, but now we're all closer than ever because going through that together.
Yeah.
100%,
mate. I think anyone who's listening who's been through that, and I'm the same, mate. I guess a lot of people who probably grew up in our area tend to fight a few battles and often on the back foot with a lot of things, but it creates a hell of a lot of resilience at the same time, right? And I'm sure you'll be the one person to admit to that. But so what was school life like, mate? So you went to Beale
primary right through, graduated. Yeah. It was alright. I was never a big fan of school. Yeah, it wasn't really for me. But I just did it anyway. Just graduated, got it done. I was not the greatest of students. Played up a bit.
Yeah.
I think most boys do. Just hard sitting there.
Concentration.
Concentration. Yeah. I think that was a part of it. Just wasn't really interested.
Yeah.
Wasn't really for me, yeah.
So what, get any fights at school?
A few when I was younger, yeah, but that was all before boxing actually. And
okay.
Sort of once I went into boxing, I sort of transitioned. My school got better. I just went there and did what I had to do, just so I could go to training, basically. But before that, I used to play up a fair bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so when did you get into boxing? What age were you when you got into boxing?
I was 14.
14. Is that pretty late for boxers? Kind of at your level as well?
Yeah.
Do they kind of... I feel like it's...
Some do start a bit early. Some like the guns, they start under 10. In gyms always. But I was probably a bit later than usual, but still early enough where I could develop and still have a good amateur background.
Yeah. So what got you into it? 14 years old?
I was always sort of a fan, but then I think just on the local paper, an ad.
Yep.
And I went there just basically for fitness because I was still playing footy for the doggies. And then I just fell in love with it more and more, started sparring. And then once that season finished for footy, I had my first amateur fight and then basically never looked back, yeah. Okay,
so how long were you training for before the first amateur fight?
I was training from April, I think it was. After the Easter holidays, I started.
Yeah.
And then that was just casual training about 3 times a week and then mixed in with footy. And then once the season stopped, I think it was about 2 months to a month, just full on, just boxing only, and then I had my first amateur fight. I think it was October.
Okay, let's pause for a sec. So you're 24 years old now.
Yeah,
24, 25. You're 24.
So I've been 10 years.
10 years in. Yeah. All right, let's retrace those steps. So, I mean, number one, I guess what was it? Was it your family sort of pushing you into it? Was it something you had this drive of going, you know what, boxing's just something I want to do? Like, when you saw the ad, was there any thought of getting into boxing prior to that, or was it?
Not necessarily. No, like I said, I was always sort of a fan of boxing. Like I used to watch highlights, just the bare minimum, like Roy Jones and stuff, just the big names. But I think my mum sort of went there just for fitness, because a few of us boys there at the house, and then we just went there just for fitness, and I basically just fell in love with it. Just the training. Yeah. I was a bit chubbier too, and I lost weight, and I liked that part of it. I started getting real fit, and then the sparring. Then I started sparring, and I just liked it.
Yeah,
it just clicked with me, I think. Yeah.
So siblings, you said siblings as well. Yeah. How many siblings you got?
I have 2 sisters and I had 2 cousins living with me.
So and they got into
and I had a third one as well, actually, at the time.
And they got in. They went down to training as well.
Yeah. So there's 4 of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. Yeah. So obviously a bit of a family tie to it as well. Okay.
So it was me and 3 cousins. They were all living with me at the time. Yeah.
And was this down at Hintsland with Pity?
Yeah. Pity,
okay. So Pity was your first coach and
first and only. Yeah.
So let's go through that journey. So what getting into fight, like, I mean, for me, look, I was the same as you when we were kids. Yeah. You're playing up and get into fights and whatever else. For me, look, I'm a pretty boy, so I was never getting into the ring and whatever else, but. What was? Let's go through the mental psyche of that first fight. Like, were you nervous?
A little bit, actually, because I had a fair few family come.
Yeah.
So I wanted to win in front of them, and because it was my first fight, and the fellow I was fighting, he's already had like 10 or 11 fights.
Wow.
So I was a little bit nervous, but not too nervous because I was pretty confident as well.
Yeah.
To throw down, but and I'm glad because I did get the win, actually.
Yeah.
So it's good because I had my sisters and a few cousins there all screaming.
Yeah.
And it's good to get the first.
So what's an amateur fight? 3 rounds?
Yeah, 3.
3 rounds?
So as goes to like age group. So I was 14. I think it was 3 1.5 minute rounds.
Yeah.
And then as a junior, it's 3 2s, and then once you hit youth and elite, it's 3 3s.
Looking back on that first fight, mate, do you remember much of it?
A little bit, not much, but I just remember I just went out there and threw hands.
Threw hands like crazy.
We had all the skill sets, but I just went out the window. I just went for it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you get down there. So you have your first fight. So what was it? A couple of months, you said, right? You've been training for a couple of months, and yeah. Okay. And obviously, what was the feeling after that first fight? You get the victory.
Yeah, it was really good. I think that's what made me want to do it more too. That rush.
Yeah.
Because you go through like waves. You get like nervous before. And then you're thinking about the fight, but you don't want to burn out because you're like don't want to leave it all before the fight. So then when you get in there, and it just happens so quick. And then once it's all done, you're like, oh, just had a fight.
Yeah.
And then you're waiting for the decision, and then got the win. That's cool.
How good. Okay, so that obviously gave you a taste for it.
Yeah.
That did you come back to training? Like how and I guess excuse my naivety here, but how quickly do you return back to training after a fight?
Depending. Like you can go straight. As an amateur, you can just go week on week, depending, obviously, if you get cut or injured or stopped. Like, if you get knocked out, obviously, there's a waiting period. But after that one, that was my only one for that year. And I think I just couldn't get a fight. Because back then, you just have to just weigh in.
Yeah.
And then whoever weighed in the same division, you just have to wait around and they'll match you up with coaches.
There you go. Okay.
Now it's all online and different, so they pre-match before the weekend. But back then, you just go in, weigh in, not know anything, who you're fighting, wait for the draw to be out. And, so that's changed a few years ago now.
Yeah, okay. So straight back to training after the first fight?
Yeah, but I didn't have my next one until the next year.
Okay. So just trained for the year. How were the feet? Feet would have been itchy after the first fight. Would have been just
I wanted to get back in there, try and get another one, get another win.
Yeah, okay. So what did you work on? So you come back, are you working on technique? Are you working on So 14 to let's go to 15. So 15 you have your second fight, right? So what was the mental change in that time, you reckon?
I think it was just go back to boxing instead of just letting my hands go.
Yeah.
Like let your hands go in spurts, but use your skill set. Come with the jab. I've always sort of been like that. Steve has been a good technical coach.
Yeah.
Everything starts with boxing, and then if you got to let your hands go, you let them go.
Yeah.
But always stick to your skill set.
Yeah, good. So your second fight, remember that?
Yeah, I actually lost it.
Okay.
I remember losing. It was another one. I went up a division, and he had about 10 to 15 fights.
Yeah.
So I gave away a bit, but it was a good fight. Yeah.
So 15 years old, second ever amateur fight, and you scratch up a loss.
Yeah.
How's your headspace after that?
It was actually all right because I wanted to get back even more then.
Yeah.
Sometimes like what they say in boxing, especially as an amateur, you don't lose, you learn.
Yeah.
Because amateurs, it's more of a learning period for the pros. It's where you can actually put it into work and then go back to the gym and work on those things.
Did you always have those, or was that something that Pity instilled into you?
He definitely instilled it into me because it's hard. Obviously, young and you lose, and you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Because you put it all on, and then you coming up with a loss, you just feel a bit defeated. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what was the second fight same year? 3 sort of minute and a half rounds.
Yeah. And actually, I think I went to 3 2s by then.
Yeah.
15, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the journey after that? Because how many amateur fights did you have?
I think I had about 30.
30 amateur fights.
32 or something. Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
yeah.
so from amateur, so 14 until what age?
My last amateur fight, I think I was 19.
19. So that's a lot of fights in 4 years, 5 years.
There's a few years there where I couldn't get as many, but some people have racks up way more. Like some fighters have amateur records of like 150 fights.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your win-loss record in amateur?
I think I had about 25 wins.
Yeah, okay.
I got a blue book there. I just can't remember what it is because it's still at mum's.
Yeah.
But it has all the record and that in it.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about the journey. So let's talk about those 30-odd fights. 14 until 19. Number one, you're obviously becoming a man, right? That's your a really tricky period in the world for any guy, any probably teenager, right?
Yeah.
I say to a lot of the young guys, down at footy and even the young guys who work for me as well, that teenage years is a tricky period, man. Like number one, you've got no idea who you are, you got no idea where you're going in life. You're kind of just scrambling through or fighting your way through, right? Yeah. So I remember talking to Pity, like obviously early on, because obviously Pity and I were connected down at the footy for a long time, and as you know, try and stay involved with your boxing or the club as much as I can. But it's an interesting thing. I remember talking to Pity. I don't know how old you would have been, maybe sort of 17, 18, maybe when everyone started realizing you had some talent, right? What was your mindset going through that? Because I remember, and I probably don't want to speak at a place. I probably want to let you tell me more than sort of me tell you what we sort of witnessed as well. But how were you as a kid growing up? That sort of 14 to 19, because you look at 14 to 19-year-olds, particularly in the areas that we grew up. Most of the time they're little shits. Yeah. Most of the time they're rat bags. Most of the time they don't listen to people who probably have the right tell them the right thing, right?
A lot of time, the other.
100%, right? Now, number one, Pity's a hell of a coach, a hell of a bloke, hell of an individual, and he's got wisdom beyond his years. But during that period of 14 to 19, where was your head at? Were you listening to what he was saying? Were you kind of resisting him? Were you fighting him on things? Were you still doing your own thing and being a kid and being a teenager? What was that 14 to 19 years like?
I was pretty good when I started, but what I'll get into quickly, like I was really lost before then because I just lost my father the year before I started boxing.
Oh shit! Right, so 13 when you were 13.
13.
Yeah, right.
Just it was in October, so I basically had my first amateur fight a year.
Yeah.
Very close, basically a year apart. But I think just having him there in that period, like early on when I started training there, that's why I loved it too.
Yeah.
Just in the gym, and then from then on, I listened to him pretty much right through until I got about 17, 18 when I thought I was a bit older. And obviously having like a girlfriend and stuff, doing all that stuff, it changed me a bit.
Yeah.
And I sort of went off the tracks a little, but I was always training right through. And then I sort of not stepped away from boxing, but just had enough of the amateurs almost. But I was training, and then that's when he came back to me, and then it's like, oh, do you want to go pro? And then from then on, I was like, yeah, all right. Then I had my first pro fight after at 20, I think it was. Yeah, March when I was 20, and then just the switch clicked back on. And I was like, yeah, let's go. The fuel
started to burn again, right? Yeah. I mean, you start looking at what could be and whatever else, and we'll get into that as well. So
because I had, I represented Australia for the Junior Worlds when I was 16, and then I was supposed to go back at 17, but then I had graduation at the same time. Thinking back, I wish I sort of went to Russia for the second time to compete, but I didn't. I stayed and graduated. But
hindsight's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
It is. So your old man, and mate, sorry to hear about that. You guys were close?
No, not the closest.
Yeah, okay.
No, but yeah.
Was there fuel behind that? Do you think, and so, I hate to put all the cliches into it.
No, yeah.
Do you know, was there fuel behind that with the boxing career now as well? Do you know, like
I think so.
losing early on, and look, I've been around it as well. Funnily enough, very close to sort of my home, so I can understand the situation you're in, particularly at an early age. But so all right, so 30 odd amateur fights. You hit 19. You get that fuel back. The fire starts to burn again. Going right, let's go pro here. Are you looking at? You finish school. You graduate school. What was the plan after school? Were you looking to get into a trade or do uni, or was it always just has boxing just become the thing at that stage?
Yeah, and that's why I think when I was still in amateurs, I was like, like what's going on here? And I was sort of a bit.
Feel like you're wasting your time a bit?
Almost, yeah. And then because I was working he had a sports store as well, Steve. So I was working there. Once I went pro as well. So I mean, just before I went pro, I think. Thinking back now, a bit lost with time now.
I went to the sports store. Yeah, sports store must have been years ago.
Yeah,
that was a while ago. Yeah.
But all I know is when I was working there, I was just starting my pro career.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was always there was nothing else. There was no plan B.
No, not necessarily. No.
I'm boxing, and there's nothing else, and I'm going to make something of it. So let's go to your first pro fight then. What's do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
It was in Brizzy actually, and it was against he was a bit shorter. I remember when he was weighing in, he looked at me because I was really baby faced. I was all clean shaven.
Yeah. And
he was wondering, like, he's like, is that who I'm fighting? I was thinking. And it was pretty funny because he even said it after, like, you look very young, but I ended up knocking him out in the third round, I think.
Yeah, wow.
But it was a good fight, yeah. There was a good crowd, actually, really good atmosphere. It was a bit shorter, one of those home shows, but it gets really loud.
Where was the fight in Brisbane?
It was Eastside Boxing Gym, it was called.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. Yeah. So won that in what round?
Third round.
So what was your first? So you've gone from you're still doing 3 2-minute rounds.
That was a 3-4.
3-4.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
4 3-minute rounds. Sorry.
4 3s.
Yeah.
Okay. So even on but prior to that, even in your amateur fights, you were still doing 3 and 2s.
3 3s. My last
3 3s
as an elite. Yeah, my last elite.
Okay. So still a bit of a step up. The extra minute long rounds. Like you're surely feeling that. So that first round you walk out there in the first pro fight. Are you gassed? Are you burning? Like how's your mental state?
I think we were pretty good because we trained very hard.
Yeah.
We always trained really hard, and we wanted to make sure we were more than ready.
Yeah.
Leave it in the gym. You'd rather be tired in the gym than 100%. In the ring. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you get the win.
Yeah.
That's always a bonus. What'd you learn from it though? Here's one for you as well. What do you learn? Like obviously everything's a learning stage, right?
That was hard because everything sort of worked really well. I was using my jab. I remember it came off my jab, and then he was getting really aggressive. I sort of went on the back foot, and then I caught him coming in, and then I turned him, and then there was one shot we were working on. This jab head feint to the body, and then come back with the rear. Nothing flush as.
So let's go. Got him.
Yeah, got him with that.
So the training paid off.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Are you doing? I don't know what it's like, because obviously I'm footy orientated more than anything else, but. Are you doing video work on your opponents and stuff at that?
Yeah,
level?
now we are. Yeah. Like back then it was hard, obviously when you start now there's not as much.
Yeah.
But now we are. Like Steve's looking at, now that we're getting in the higher ranks, he'll have a certain amount of opponents we want to pick from and stuff, and he'll obviously get the video footage, and then we'll break them down and work on specific things that we think can exploit their weaknesses and stuff.
And are you trying to pick opponents that are, like, you mentioned obviously there's only a certain amount of opponents you want to fight for your ranking, right? That's one thing. Is there any, I guess, benefit to picking opponents based on your skill set compared to their skill set as well? Like, do you go that deep into it?
Sometimes, yeah. Like say you struggle with the southpaw, so you want to fight a few southpaws before stepping up and stuff. So you want to learn how to, because it's different, obviously, sparring than to fight. Just learning that different punches, and obviously maybe a shorter fighter, you want to get the work in with them because they're more aggressive, it's harder to punch.
Yeah.
A taller fighter, they're usually longer, so you have to work on your tight game in close.
Right.
So there's lots of different things. You want to have a variety of opponents before you start stepping up, because that way, when you've stepped up, you know what you're going to be doing.